Imagine this, you're running on a treadmill. The faster you run, the faster the belt moves. You sweat, you push, you feel like you're going somewhere, but when you finally look around, you realize you haven't moved an inch. That's what most people's pursuit of happiness looks like. They run, they hustle, they grind, convinced that the next achievement, the next milestone, the next shiny moment will finally unlock happiness. And yet, the more they chase it, the more it slips through their fingers. Happiness, for so many of us, has become this prize dangling just out of reach. You think, if I can just get that job, I'll be happy. Then you get it, and you're not. If I can just get into that relationship, I'll be happy. Then you do, and the old frustrations creep back in. If I can just make more money, I'll be happy. But no matter how high the number climbs, the emptiness doesn't go away. And here's the brutal truth: the harder you chase happiness, the more miserable you become. Happiness has been sold to us as the ultimate destination, the grand prize waiting at the end of all our hard work, sacrifices, and endless chasing. From the time we are young, we're conditioned to believe that once we have the right job, the right partner, the right income, or the right lifestyle, we will finally arrive at a permanent state of happiness. It's like we've been told that happiness is a city we can move into, unpack our bags, and live in forever. But the reality is far different, and it's one of the biggest reasons why so many people end up miserable while trying to achieve this ideal. Happiness is not a destination. It's not a place you arrive at and stay in for the rest of your life. It's not a permanent state of being, and the very belief that it should be keeps you trapped in a cycle of disappointment. Happiness is an emotion, and like every other emotion, it is temporary. Think of how hunger works. You eat a delicious meal, you feel satisfied, and for a while you're content. But a few hours later, the hunger returns. You don't say to yourself, something is wrong with me because I'm hungry again. You simply accept it as the natural rhythm of being alive. Happiness functions the same way. You experience moments of joy, excitement, pride, or satisfaction, but those feelings fade with time. They are supposed to fade. They are emotional signals, not permanent destinations. Expecting happiness to be constant is like expecting to never feel tired, never feel hungry, never feel sad. It's simply not how human beings are wired. The problem arises when we misunderstand this basic truth and start to treat happiness as a goal to achieve and maintain forever. When you see happiness as a destination, every time you feel stress, sadness, or frustration, you believe you've failed. You start to think something must be broken inside of you because you're not smiling all the time. This creates a vicious cycle. The more you expect happiness to be permanent, the more you panic when it isn't, and the more miserable you become. In other words, your unhappiness isn't caused by sadness itself, but by your resistance to it, your belief that you should never feel it in the first place. If you take a moment to really examine your own life, you'll notice that some of the most joyful moments you've ever had were fleeting. Think about the excitement of landing your first job, the rush of buying your first car, or the thrill of falling in love. In those moments, you felt on top of the world. But did that feeling last forever? Of course not. After a few weeks or months, the job became routine, the car was just another vehicle, and the relationship settled into everyday life. This doesn't mean those experiences weren't valuable. It simply means happiness isn't designed to last forever. It's meant to highlight important moments, not define your entire existence. This is why chasing happiness as a final destination doesn't work. You will always find yourself on what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You achieve one thing, you feel a burst of happiness, but then your brain adapts and resets your baseline. Now you're back where you started, hungry for the next thing that might make you feel good again. It becomes a cycle of endless chasing with no real satisfaction at the end of it. The more you run, the faster the treadmill moves, and the more exhausted you become, wondering why you still don't feel the lasting joy you thought you would. The truth is, you're not supposed to feel happy all the time. You're supposed to feel a wide range of emotions. Sadness, anger, frustration, and even boredom all serve a purpose. They are not evidence of failure, they are part of the human experience. When you finally stop treating happiness like a permanent home and start seeing it as a guest that visits, you free yourself from the endless chase. You no longer judge yourself for being unhappy sometimes. You understand that just like the seasons change, your emotional state is meant to rise and fall. That understanding alone removes a massive weight off your shoulders because you realize you were never broken. You were just chasing something that was never meant to be caught. The pursuit of happiness creates a strange paradox the more you try to force it into your life. The more it seems to slip away. At first, this sounds counterintuitive. You would think that if you want something, you should go after it with all your energy. That's how most goals work. You study hard to pass exams, you train consistently to get stronger, you work diligently to earn more money. But happiness doesn't follow the same rules. It behaves differently from other goals because it is not something you can directly obtain and hold on to. The very act of obsessing over happiness makes you hyper-aware of when it isn't there, and that constant awareness creates misery rather than joy. It's similar to the experience of trying to fall asleep. You lie in bed staring at the ceiling, telling yourself that you need to sleep, that you should already be asleep, that tomorrow will be ruined if you don't get enough rest. The more pressure you put on yourself to sleep, the more awake you feel. Sleep, like happiness, arrives when you stop chasing it and allow it to come naturally. The harder you force it, the less likely it is to happen. This is what psychologists call the paradox of hedonism, the idea that the pursuit of pleasure or happiness for its own sake often leads to disappointment rather than fulfillment. When you make happiness the central target of your life, every experience is filtered through the question, does this make me happy? If it doesn't, you feel like you've wasted your time. If it does, you immediately fear losing it. This constant evaluation creates anxiety. Imagine going to a party and instead of simply enjoying yourself, you keep asking, am I happy right now? Am I happy enough? Is this fun? That kind of mental checking ruins the experience. You stop living in the moment and start obsessing about measuring your own happiness. Ironically, the very act of measuring kills the feeling you're trying to preserve. Another problem with chasing happiness is that it causes people to confuse temporary highs with genuine fulfillment. In the quest to feel good, many turn to instant gratifications, social media validation, consumer purchases, alcohol, or constant entertainment. For a brief moment, these things provide a rush, a spark of joy. But when the effect fades, you're left emptier than before. Now you need another hit, another purchase, another distraction. The chase becomes addictive, and like any addiction, it leaves you drained rather than satisfied. You mistake stimulation for happiness, but the two are not the same. True contentment comes as a byproduct of meaningful living, not as the result of grasping at fleeting pleasures. There's also a psychological phenomenon at play called affective forecasting. Human beings are notoriously bad at predicting what will make them happy. We think a promotion will change everything, but once we get it, we adjust and feel the same as before. We think moving to a new city or buying a bigger house will solve our dissatisfaction, but the excitement wears off quickly. By constantly chasing happiness through external achievements, we set ourselves up for endless cycles of expectation and letdown. The very act of expecting life to deliver constant happiness ensures that we focus more on what's missing than what's present. The real kicker is that when you stop making happiness the primary goal, you actually create more space for it to appear. When you focus on building good relationships, pursuing meaningful challenges, and contributing to something beyond yourself, happiness often arises as a side effect. You don't have to force it, it sneaks in while you're too busy living. The paradox teaches us that happiness is best experienced indirectly. It grows when you focus on what matters, not when you keep demanding its presence. The more you loosen your grip, the more naturally it flows into your life. Most people believe that the purpose of life is to be happy, but if you look closer, what people truly crave is not endless smiles or constant pleasure, but a sense of meaning. Happiness is fleeting, but meaning is lasting. The distinction is important because while happiness rises and falls with circumstances, meaning anchors you through both the highs and lows. Happiness comes and goes depending on how your day unfolds, but meaning gives you a reason to get out of bed even when life feels heavy. This is why some of the most rewarding experiences in life are not the easiest or the most pleasurable, but the ones that carry significance. Think about raising children. It is not a process filled with constant happiness. It's sleepless nights, financial stress, endless responsibilities, and moments of frustration. Yet people willingly endure it because it gives their lives profound meaning. Or consider training for a marathon. The daily runs are exhausting, your muscles ache, and there are countless times you want to quit. But crossing that finish line fills you with pride because the struggle itself was meaningful. These examples show that meaning, not happiness, is what sustains people in the long run. When happiness is your goal, you begin to avoid anything that causes discomfort. You avoid challenges because they are stressful. You avoid risks because they carry the possibility of failure. You avoid responsibility because it feels heavy. But the avoidance of these things strips life of depth and significance. By chasing only happiness, you miss the experiences that truly shape who you are. Meaning, on the other hand, requires you to step into discomfort, to accept challenges, to face risks, and to carry responsibility. It asks more of you, but it gives far more in return. One of the biggest reasons people today feel empty, despite having access to more comfort and pleasure than any previous generation, is because their lives are designed around chasing positive emotions instead of pursuing meaningful values. Endless entertainment, consumer goods, and quick dopamine hits may deliver short-term happiness, but they don't provide a deeper sense of fulfillment. That's why so many find themselves wondering why they feel restless even after achieving their goals. It's not because they failed, but because they were chasing the wrong thing to begin with. Meaning is found when you connect your struggles to something bigger than yourself. It's in serving others, in creating, in contributing, in building, in persevering. It doesn't mean you'll walk around with a constant smile. In fact, living a meaningful life often means enduring more difficulty, but that difficulty feels worthwhile. It transforms suffering from something to escape into something to embrace. Pain without meaning feels unbearable, but pain with meaning becomes a form of growth. This is why people can endure hardship for a cause they believe in, but crumble when facing meaningless discomfort. When you shift from chasing happiness to pursuing meaning, you change the entire framework of your life. Instead of asking, does this make me happy? You start asking, does this matter? Instead of running from pain, you ask, is this struggle worth it? Those questions bring a deeper sense of satisfaction, one that outlasts temporary highs. Happiness may come and go, but when your life is filled with meaning, even the lows feel valuable. That is what people are truly searching for, whether they realize it or not. Pain and struggle are often seen as enemies, something to be avoided at all costs, but in truth they are the very foundation of growth. Nothing valuable in life comes without some form of discomfort. If you think about the times when you truly grew as a person, whether it was mentally, emotionally, or physically, those moments almost always came with challenges that forced you out of your comfort zone. Growth requires resistance the same way muscles require weight to grow stronger. If you avoid pain entirely, you rob yourself of the very experiences that allow you to develop resilience, strength, and character. Life naturally delivers suffering, and people often believe that if they could just eliminate struggle, they would finally be happy. But this is a dangerous illusion. Without struggle, life becomes shallow. When everything comes too easily, you feel unfulfilled because ease does not test you, and without being tested, you never discover what you are capable of. Think about going to the gym. If you only ever lifted weights that were light and easy, your body would never change. It's the discomfort of pushing yourself against resistance that creates transformation. In the same way, every meaningful achievement in life comes from leaning into the discomfort of growth. Pain also has a way of teaching lessons that comfort never could. Failure forces you to reflect. Rejection teaches you humility. Loss makes you appreciate what you still have. Struggle reveals your priorities because when life gets hard, the things that don't really matter fall away, and what's truly important becomes clear. These lessons don't come wrapped in joy, but they leave you with wisdom that shapes the way you live forever. Pain sharpens you, while comfort dulls you. It's through the difficult experiences that you begin to build a life that feels authentic and worthwhile. Avoiding pain leads not to happiness, but to emptiness. People who constantly chase comfort often end up numbing themselves with distractions. They scroll endlessly on their phones, binge watch shows, or chase temporary highs in food, alcohol, or material possessions. These things offer relief, but they don't bring fulfillment. They keep you busy avoiding discomfort instead of confronting it. And the truth is, the longer you avoid pain, the more it compounds and the more powerless you feel. In contrast, when you face discomfort directly, you discover that it is survivable, that it can be endured, and that it often transforms you in ways you never expected. What separates people who thrive from those who stagnate is not the absence of pain, but their willingness to use pain as fuel. A person who accepts that struggle is part of the process finds meaning in it, while a person who avoids it at all costs finds themselves trapped in cycles of frustration and self-pity. The irony is that the pursuit of a pain-free life creates more suffering than the acceptance of pain ever could. When you embrace discomfort, you move forward. When you run from it, you remain stuck. Pain is not pleasant, but it is purposeful. Every great achievement, every deep relationship, every personal breakthrough comes with its share of challenges. It is in the process of working through those challenges that you become more capable, more grounded, and more fulfilled. If you try to live without pain, you also live without growth, and without growth, life loses its meaning. Life is full of problems, and no one escapes that truth. The real question is not how to avoid problems, but how to choose the right ones. Many people waste their energy hoping for a problem-free life, believing that if they could just get rid of all the obstacles, they would finally be happy. But a life without problems is impossible, and ironically, it would also be empty. Problems give life structure and direction. They force us to act, to grow, and to build. What matters most is not whether problems exist, but whether the problems we are dealing with are worth the struggle. When you choose meaningful struggles, the pain that comes with them feels purposeful. Building a strong relationship requires difficult conversations, compromise, and vulnerability. Those are problems, but they are problems that bring the reward of love, connection, and partnership. Working on a meaningful project might bring stress, late nights, and moments of self-doubt, but those struggles lead to pride, growth, and accomplishment. Taking care of your body means resisting unhealthy habits, sacrificing comfort, and pushing yourself physically, but those problems reward you with energy, strength, and vitality. In every area of life, it is the quality of the problems you face that determines the quality of the life you live. The tragedy is that many people end up choosing problems that don't matter. They fight over trivial things, worry endlessly about the opinions of strangers, or chase shallow goals that don't bring them lasting fulfillment. These meaningless problems still cause stress, but they don't add depth or purpose to life. You might obsess over whether someone liked your social media post, spend hours comparing yourself to others, or complain about inconveniences that don't actually affect your long-term well-being. These problems consume energy without creating growth, and in the end, they leave you more frustrated than before. The choice of struggles also reveals your values. If your highest value is comfort, you will choose easy, shallow problems, but those will never satisfy you. If your highest value is growth, love, or contribution, you will choose deeper, more meaningful struggles. These struggles might be harder, but they lead to a life that feels real. A meaningful life is not one without pain. It is one where the pain serves a purpose. That's why people who pursue meaningful challenges often feel more fulfilled even in the middle of stress, while those who avoid challenges feel restless even in comfort. It's important to understand that you can't avoid paying the price of struggle. You will suffer either way. If you choose not to face the problems of discipline, you suffer the problems of regret. If you choose not to face the struggles of responsibility, you suffer the struggles of emptiness and purposelessness. If you choose not to face the problems of love, you suffer the loneliness of disconnection. There is no way to escape suffering. There is only the choice of which suffering is worth enduring. This realization changes everything. Instead of asking, how can I avoid problems, you begin asking, which problems are worth my time, my energy, and my life? That simple shift in perspective makes it easier to stop chasing illusions of happiness and start embracing the struggles that align with your deepest values. In the end, it is not the absence of struggle that creates fulfillment, but the presence of meaningful struggle. A life without problems doesn't exist, but a life built around the right problems is one of purpose, strength, and quiet joy. Happiness is often imagined as something grand and life-changing, something that arrives with major achievements or dramatic events, but the truth is that real joy is often hidden in ordinary moments. When people focus too much on chasing happiness in the form of big milestones, they overlook the small but powerful experiences that already exist in their daily lives. Gratitude is the key that allows you to notice those moments and appreciate them fully. It shifts your focus away from what's missing and places it on what's already here, creating a deeper sense of contentment. Without gratitude, life becomes an endless cycle of wanting more. You achieve a goal, feel good for a short while, and then immediately start craving the next achievement. This constant chase blinds you to the value of what you already have. You get the promotion but forget the pride you once wished for. You find love but take the relationship for granted. You buy the house or the car and quickly stop noticing it, because your attention has already moved to something else. This lack of appreciation makes even success feel empty, as though nothing is ever enough. Gratitude interrupts this cycle by forcing you to pause and recognize that in this moment, you already have things worth celebrating. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your ambitions or pretending life is perfect. It doesn't mean you stop striving for growth. Instead, it balances ambition with appreciation. It's about acknowledging that while you may still want more, what you have right now is meaningful. This mindset not only brings peace, but also makes it easier to pursue goals without desperation. When you're grateful, you no longer approach life from a place of constant lack. Instead, you act from a foundation of abundance, which changes how you experience everything. The practice of gratitude also transforms struggle. Pain without context feels unbearable, but gratitude can reframe it. Instead of focusing only on what hardship is taking from you, gratitude helps you see what it might be giving you: strength, resilience, lessons, or perspective. A difficult period may still hurt, but gratitude prevents it from feeling meaningless. It reminds you that even in suffering, there are things to be thankful for: the people who support you, the lessons you're learning, or simply the fact that you're still standing. This shift doesn't erase pain, but it makes it more bearable and purposeful. Joy in ordinary moments becomes more visible when you practice gratitude. The warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a friend, the comfort of a good meal, or the peace of a quiet morning are all experiences that often pass unnoticed because people are too busy chasing bigger highs. Gratitude slows you down enough to recognize these small details and realize that they are, in fact, the building blocks of a joyful life. The extraordinary is rare, but the ordinary is always available, and gratitude is what allows you to see the richness in it. When you consistently practice gratitude, your perspective shifts permanently. Instead of waiting for happiness to arrive in the future, you start noticing it right now. Instead of living in constant comparison with others, you appreciate what is uniquely yours. Instead of believing happiness is hiding in more, you understand that it is already embedded in the life you're living. Gratitude doesn't just help you feel joy in the moment. It also creates resilience, because when you appreciate what you have, even challenges cannot strip you of your sense of worth and fulfillment. In the end, it is gratitude and presence that reveal where true happiness has been hiding all along, not in the extraordinary, but in the everyday moments that make life meaningful.